Good morning, everybody. Hanging out here at George Mason University. Had to get an early start because I get a chance to meet with my brother Edward O at around noon. And as I mentioned in one of my videos a few weeks ago, I want to give at least one day a week to come up to the campus and just begin to be praying, believing God, trusting Him for what He wants to do with this upcoming year, and even during the course of the summer, just really spending time to get in His face and hear from Him while the pace is slower. Like, it's great. Like right now, there's probably all of 5 people up on the 3rd floor of the Johnson Center. That's not going to be the case once we get towards the end of August and the school year starts. So that's the perfect time just to really use this summer to take down. And on another side note, I'm really hyped because I got some books on the way to me. A few things dealing with the prophetic, and then some other things dealing with, addressing racism, privilege, equality, all that kind of stuff. And then that's what I got right now as far as reading coming in. Oh yeah, and I got one book that Jon Acuff recommended when it comes to public speaking. Speak Like Churchill and Stand Like Lincoln. And it was actually pretty cheap. I'm excited to get into that. And also I'm reading, as I mentioned to y'all yesterday, how I appreciate what Jon Acuff brought to the table as far as wisdom with how to speak and everything. But I also bought a book. I didn't get the author's name. I just looked at the notes. And it's a book that specifically deals with preaching and just dealing with, getting in that place. Because ultimately, it's coming in that place of prayer. So, okay, that's enough side stuff for now. I want to get into what I wanted to share with you. And as this video titles, it's a real culture of honor. And the reason I say a real culture of honor, it's not that other people talking about culture of honor being fake. Let's get that out the way right now. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is a lot of people hear teachings like a culture of honor. A lot of people hear different things, and all of a sudden, if you're not in the scriptures, if you're not really getting the whole of a teaching, if you're only taking a piece of stuff and running with it, you're not getting the real fullness of what it really means to walk out a culture of honor. So people like Chris Valentine and Bill Johnson and those who are bringing things like this to the table and really challenging the saints to look, keep it up. We praise the Lord for you. So, and even Lauren Sanford, I remember one of his books I was reading that was called A Prophetic Church. He actually talked about how a lot of the stuff that came from a culture of honor, things really helped to shape that particular book. And in that book, as I was reading through it, he broke down the Greek word for honor, which means to ascribe value. So you cannot honor something or someone. You cannot honor somebody and treat them with contempt. You can't honor somebody and treat them any old way. I'm going to get into some specifics in a few minutes, but I want to pull out some scripture on this right quick. And 1 Peter chapter 2, beginning with verse 13, it says, "Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as a supreme, or to the governors sent by him, to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but as living servants of God. Honor everyone. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Honor the emperor." Now, I'm going to stop there for a little bit, but I just want to talk about that because Peter was writing to a folk who were in captivity, and Peter was writing to a people who were in the land that wasn't theirs, and there was some crazy jacked up stuff, just like you hear Paul a lot of times when he was writing about praying for your leaders. He was talking about praying for people like Nero, who had Christians burnt at the stake. It was just crazy. And the first thing I want to clear up too is the fact that Honor is not blind obedience. Honor is not being a yes man. You cannot value somebody when you just listen and don't pay no attention, because if something is off, if something is suspect, if something does not line up with the word, if something does not line up with the biblical way to care for folk, that ain't honor. All this nonsense, turning blind eyes and deaf ears, that's not honor. That's deception, that's flattery, that's laying a trap for somebody's feet, and that's laying a trap for somebody else to fall into. If you don't stand up, if you don't do the honor, if you value people, when you come across foolishness like that, ascribing value means you stand up to dictator foolishness. You stand up to injustice. You stand up to things that you see happening around and you know good and well they ain't right. And I also want to clear up the fact that, especially, like I mentioned, that Peter was writing to a people who were in exile. They were leaving their land, so there was things that was happening that was not the land they were used to being in. See, in this land here, when people in authority act a fool, there's a way as we, the people, we can stand up against that. There's checks and balances that have been put in place to be able to stand up and be like, hold up, heck no, that's not okay. And at the end of the day, that still takes a lot of prayer, a lot of time spent in God's face, because Lord knows some of the things that we've seen happen. If it wasn't for the grace of God, if it wasn't for his provision, if it wasn't for him keeping people in their right mind, if it wasn't for him being able to protect people when people tried to take folk out, all kind of crazy stuff, there's a whole lot of mess that would probably still be swept under the rug. So with all checks and balances and everything that we have as far as standing up, ultimately it's the Lord who provides justice in those matters, and it's up to us to lean on him and trust in him. And then as we lean on him and trust in him, we act when it's necessary. So that's the first thing. When you honor, one part of honor is standing up against injustice. Like, you can't just watch people get abused and get beaten and pretend it's fine. And another aspect of honor I want to hit on is being able to keep confidence. How well do you value the relationships that you have with people, that when people is in crisis and people are dealing with things, or even stuff that's just not in the position to be given up for public consumption, there are certain aspects and there are certain parts of people's lives that are not for general consumption. Everybody does not deserve a piece. People who think they deserve a piece do not deserve a piece. Are you one of those people that when people are dealing with things, are you trustworthy? Can you keep things to yourself that people share with you? And I remember I had a recent conversation, and I think actually I can think about it several times, because there's this saying that goes where people wear their heart on their sleeve, or people decide they just let everything out there. Just because people throw things out there when it concerns themselves, that does actually, in a lot of cases, that's a telltale sign you probably don't want to tell them things when it comes to personal matters of the heart. Because if they're that careless with their own issues, if they're that careless with their own stuff, they're not going to treat yours any differently. They just not. They could, because like I said, if they're that reckless when it comes to their own personal affair matters, if they blast their own business all over the place, don't tell them yours. Do yourself a favor, don't tell them yours. And if you one of those people, what up, Andrew? Good morning. Thanks for joining. And if you're one of those people who are careless when it comes to people's business, do yourself a favor and don't ask about mine. And the reason I say do yourself a favor is because I have no issue shutting it down. I have no issues being straight up. Nope. Back it up. Get from over here. Ain't nobody got time for no foolishness. If I wanted my stuff in the 5 o'clock news, I'd tell you. But seeing as I don't, back it up. So once again, back to honor, ascribing value. Can you keep confidence when people are dealing with things? Can you keep confidence when people are going through? And now, another thing, going back to what was stated in the beginning, how, Peter was writing to a people, basically being subject to authority. How well can, now, once again, honor is not blind obedience. If something is wrong, you take the necessary steps to deal with what's being wrong. If somebody's being abused, you make sure that foolishness gets shut down. I'm not anything along those lines. I'm not suggesting. So remove legal matters and foolishness aside, things that need to be dealt with in the general sense. How well can you handle authority? If you want to be given authority, it does not matter what realm you're in, whether you're serving in full-time ministry, whether you're working a job, or whether you're a parent. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you want to be given authority, you have to honor the authority that's currently in your life. If you disrespect the authority that's in your life and you act a fool with folks, there's no way in the world people are going to ascribe value, honor you when you get put in authority. If you sow dishonor all around you, people going to see that. If you're always angry and bitter and you're always one of those people that's criticizing, trying to tell folk how you would do it better if you was in their place, you not in their shoes. If you are not in their shoes, if you ain't doing what it is they supposed to be doing, if you're not doing what it is they're doing, be quiet. If you're not the one that's been given authority in a matter, even if you have done the particular thing before, or even if you currently operate, if it is not your place to say something, if it is not your place to be able to actually go into a situation to back up, it's called boundaries. Like, that's not okay to be hopping up in somebody else's. That's like in a natural sense. At my job, I work at Walmart. You know that I have a store manager. Now, as far as the store goes, I mean, there's him, and then we have assistants, we have shift managers. Now imagine if a store manager from another store, at his own store, he's able to do what he's supposed to do. Now, he can come in there and be like, hold up, you're not following policy right here, and you need to do something about that before you get in trouble. But he cannot come in and enforce what it is that the store manager of my store is supposed to enforce. Now, mind you, if that foolishness keeps up, me as the associates know what the open door policy is, how to report those things, and how to get those things dealt with so that actual changes get made. So rest assured that we're not going to let no foolishness slide. No way, no how. But you need to understand your place when it comes to honoring, respecting, being able to be teachable. Like, if somebody has been where you haven't been, even if you have similar gifts with somebody, like I remember somebody, her name is Jerry P. Beasley. She posts a lot of wisdom a lot of times in the morning, and it's really been great. I've really been able to soak from some of that. And she made a comment yesterday, like, some people do have more influence than others. You don't compete with them. You don't disrespect them. Matter of fact, some of these folks can be the folks that actually can help get you to where it is to go. In some cases, they can be godly gatekeepers. They're the ones actually that probably you need to be talking to, because those are the ones who the Lord has appointed in certain areas of given certain spheres of influence, and they can be the ones to help push you. But if you ignore them, if you try to compete with them, you may have disrespected the resource and not even realize it, because all you could think about is the fact that they either have the same thing you have or they have something you don't, and all you want to do is try to compete. You cannot value somebody and compete with them. That's envy, jealousy. Like I was just reading in Proverbs 14 how the words talks about how enviness, jealousy rots the bones. Not okay. Not at all. So, yeah, I just want to share a little bit, a few points of honor in just, learning how to really value people, value those relationships you're in. And this last one I'm going to get into, because it just hit me now. This is the last one, but I want to talk about honor in the sense of how you communicate with people. I posted a thing yesterday from the Humans of New York. There was a guy who he said he was in a fraternity. He'd been sarcastic his entire life, just flippant, didn't care who got hurt, whatever, always witty, always doing this. Then the dude got lung cancer, and when he got lung cancer and was in the hospital, nobody came to see him. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that just because there's a fine line between having good, clean, honoring fun, the fun that describes value. Sarcastic humor is not that. Sarcastic is deprecating. Sarcastic takes away value. It is often cheap. It is often deadening. And it is the definition of the word. It's bitter, caustic, and meant to inflict pain. It is not the same as irony. Irony is a completely, it can run along the same lines, but irony in and of itself is not sarcasm. And he was talking about how after that situation happened and nobody came to see him in the hospital, he's like, I'm a lot more careful. I listen a lot more. I'm more careful with my words. And so it's really a thing, because we live in a culture now where everything's a witty comeback, everything's sarcastic, everything is just this. We really don't take the time to show value with our speech and how we speak to one another. I even had somebody try to tell me that roasting is a form of connection. That's a bold-faced lie. You cannot convince me otherwise. It is a bold-faced lie, because the origins of roasting come from basically the opposite of a toast, and a toast is to show honor, to express value. So seriously consider valuing folks with the way we respond to one another, the way we talk to one another. All this cheap foolishness that really does not add any value, does not do anything. We can cut that from our speech and still have fun, and still laugh, and still joke, and still do all that without having to come at somebody's expense. So those are the 3 points of honor, and just wanted to encourage the conversation of honor, to encourage as family in Christ to really learn how to value, honor, and respect each other. So if Peter can write to a people who are in exile and have them honor the authority that's currently been set in place, we can definitely do that as the body of Christ. So as always, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for taking some time to listen and watch. And for those of you who always encourage, I appreciate all of it. And if you like what you hear and you believe somebody can be encouraged by what you're hearing, pass it on. So for those of you who catch this later, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.